Hey everyone, welcome back to TOPHER Drives, where this week I have been daily driving what has to be the most controversial sports car to come out of the 2020s. That is, of course, the Toyota GR Supra, and this one is a bit special. This is the new 2024 45th Anniversary Edition. And I was thinking earlier this week, everyone always gave this car so much slack when it came out in 2020, of course, because Toyota developed it in partnership with BMW, and it was every internet troll's mission to comment nice BMW on any post of the new GR Supra. But I think things have kind of calmed down with that. Less people are shaming this car for what it is. And, owners have had these now for 4 or 5 years, and they're just kind of accepting this for what it is, a very nice sports car. This thing completes its mission better than a lot of other cars in the class, and this is probably the third or fourth one of these that I've lived with at this point, and I am just a big fan of this car. I think it's drop dead gorgeous, especially in this brand new shade of Mikan Blast, which Mikan in Japanese means Mandarin Orange, so this is painted in Mandarin Orange Blast. And while Toyota has fitted it with some other special things to celebrate 45 years of Supra, even though they took a bit of a break from 1999 until 2020, so half of that time they actually weren't making a Supra at all, but we'll gloss over that for now to just appreciate the celebration model here of the Supra. So that gets you either this Mandarin Orange paint or white if you are not an enthusiast of orange. It also gets you this adjustable rear spoiler, which I think maybe is what the Supra was missing all along. I mean, you kind of had like this built-in little ducktail into the trunk, but this spoiler adds a nice touch. I always saw people adding kind of like the Mark IV style Supra wing to the back of their cars, which did make it look quite nice, but I think this one is cool too. You have some little manual adjustments under here. You can see you've got this little nut that slides. You can move this in a couple of different ways to fit your style or your track performance driving, whatever you want to do. We also get these black 19-inch wheels, a 255 section on the front, and on the back, a 275. So a bit of a staggered setup. We saw these wheels for the first time last year when Toyota introduced the 6-speed manual to the Supra from 2020 to 2022. These were all fitted with the ZF 8-speed automatic, but now you can have them with a 6-speed manual. And I'm happy to report that this car does have that 6-speed manual, so we'll talk a bit about what that has been like to live with as well. But I feel like we don't need to go into too much detail on this car. You guys know it. It still has the same 3-liter turbocharged inline-6, 382 horsepower, 368 pound-feet of torque. As I said, this one has a 6-speed manual transmission. It's rear-wheel drive, and well, this is honestly probably the best part of this car. I'm getting distracted already, please excuse me. As this is a Toyota Special Edition car, we have this little dashboard plaque. This 45th anniversary car is limited to 900 units, so they all get this little plaque on them to commemorate them, let you know that you have a special car. We'll pop the hood and we'll take a look at this thing. So there it is, BMW's B58, an absolute gem of an engine. And I never really understood why everyone hated when this car was developed in partnership with BMW, because for one, if it was strictly Toyota, it would have been a 6-figure car. And also, BMW makes the greatest inline-6s of our generation. So to kind of complete the Supra formula of an inline-6 turbo rear-wheel drive manual transmission package, you kind of have to have this B58. Also unique for the 45th anniversary are these special strut braces painted in orange, so it dresses up the engine bay just a bit more. Otherwise, pretty much everything you guys were already used to. 0W20 oil, this huge clamshell hood, which kind of reminds me of the old BMW Z3, and of course my M Roadster. Just a really cool looking engine bay in this thing. And this Mandarin Orange paint does have a little bit of flake in it. It's very suspiciously similar to the, what do they call it, Solar Octane on the TRD Pro Toyota vehicles. So maybe they robbed the TRD Pro department to paint these special edition Supras. Anyways, let's take our key here. Very much not a Toyota key, but that's okay. And we'll pop the trunk. Now, the Supra is a lift back configuration here, which means it is quite practical. You get this cool orange script and some white stitching throughout the interior to let you know that you have the 45th anniversary. That does come standard on all of these cars. Underneath the trunk floor, we do not have a spare. In fact, there's nothing under there, I don't think. I don't really think they even want you to lift that up. But you do have a pretty decent amount of room here, and you can see a couple of subwoofers back there for our JBL sound system. Very sort of Fast and Furious era retro greatness with that design. We'll shut this, and I love that they kept the font off of the Mark IV Supra. It just kind of sets it off. It makes it look proper. I remember seeing this at the auto show in 2014 as the FT1. It was rumored to be the next Supra, and it came to fruition in 2020. Let's go ahead, hop in, and we'll take this thing for a drive. The only option we have outside of the 45th anniversary package are these carbon fiber mirror caps. They're just under $1,000, which brings the total MSRP of this particular Supra to just over 66 grand, which in the grand scheme of things is not too bad when you consider what else is on the market for $66,000 that has almost 400 horsepower, 6-speed manual transmission. I suppose you could argue a Ford Mustang, but that is kind of just about it. Nissan Z, but as we know, this car, probably your best choice out of those three. And the interior remains unchanged for the 24 model year. We still have the JBL sound system. We have the 6-speed manual in this car, as I said. And honestly, I love the interior in these cars. And bear with me for a second. I'm going to bring up BMW just for right now to kind of get my point across. This is very old school BMW in here. And by old school, I mean like mid-20 teens. And in my opinion, kind of a golden era for sports cars. And when you sit in this car, you kind of feel like you're stepping back in time. And that is not always a bad thing for new cars. I think a lot of manufacturers are getting carried away with screens and the complete lack of physical buttons. And this is just about perfect in this car. It still has BMW's iDrive 7, which works great. It has wireless CarPlay, and it's got a very nice, attractive, unique to the Supra gauge cluster, which we've seen since 2020. But everything else, BMW switchgear, you know, headlight switch, turn signals, the infotainment, I mean, pretty much everything that you touch in here is BMW. And again, not a bad thing at all. So let's actually start it with the door open. You guys can hear this B58 come to life. We even get the old school BMW chime in this. BMW is like 2 chimes past this now. I think they stopped using this one. When did they stop? Like 2018 or something. So that chime has been going for quite a while. Such a cool noise from this inline 6. And we have a bit of a zesty tune on this to feature some pops and burbles. Usually the first thing I do when I get into this car is hit that front and center sport button, big physical button. You've got 2 drive modes, sport or not sport, and I absolutely love that. You can, of course, configure your sport mode to your individual setting. I have mine set to my suspension. Of course, we have adaptive dampers in this car. Those are set to normal, so we don't rattle our teeth apart. And then the steering and engine are set to sport. I'm actually going to go ahead and put my steering back into normal, but we'll leave the engine into sport there. This also has Toyota's IMT, intelligent manual transmission, auto rev matching. Of course, that'll blip your downshifts for you. I do leave those on as they are quite satisfying and they do make you feel like a hero, but super easy to turn off if you want to be your own hero and rev match your own gears. Otherwise, in this interior, not a whole lot going on, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing for a sports car like this. The only thing I will say is that since this manual transmission, I think, was a bit of an afterthought, I think Toyota was kind of bullied into putting a manual in this car because it was a bit of sacrilege to offer a Supra with an automatic only. You do sometimes hit your elbow on the cup holders when you're changing gear. I'm sure I'll do it a couple of times while we're driving, but otherwise everything in here, physical, it all works well, and I have no real complaints. The Supra does feel like you're in a bit of a space pod. You don't have a ton of rear visibility. I think this would probably benefit from a rear view camera, but it is kind of a cool cockpity feel in here, especially with this very neat gauge cluster. Cool. All right, well, we're just going to talk about what this thing's been like to live with this week. We'll commute it-ish to downtown. We'll take the same route we did with the IS500, open it up on some back roads, jump on the highway, drive through downtown. We'll test out this JBL sound system, give you guys a bit of a refresher. I don't think it's been changed at all, but we can see how it sounds. And that'll be it for us today. Just a bit of a commemorative piece here for the Supra. Stick this thing into reverse. You've got a bit of a lockout, got to give it a good amount of pressure to get it over into reverse. You have an electronic parking brake in this car. And this is a very easy manual transmission to drive at low speeds. Very progressive and light clutch. Easy to judge your takeoffs. We are running over a ton of goose poop right now. So you don't hear rocks in the tires, it's goose droppings. And this IMT will rev match first gear for you. Always like to see that. Couple roundabouts before we get to the boring stuff. Somebody commented on one of my videos recently and said, "Oh, a turn signal in a roundabout. That's a new one." And I have an explanation for that. For one, there are signs here that say please signal to turn, so I do. But also, roundabouts are a bit of a new concept in Michigan. Excuse me, I had to do a bit of a pull there. So nobody really knows how they work. It's pretty much a daily occurrence to nearly get crashed into. So usually I'll put my turn signals on just to let people know that I'm coming around, and some instance that's not going to cause them to pull out in front of me once I'm already in the roundabout, of course. Okay, getting on a bit of a tangent, I do apologize. One other thing I want to point out is that this car is in desperate need of an alignment. You can see that the steering wheel is a little bit angled to the left. This is me driving straight, as you guys can see, so I do apologize for that as well. You don't need to comment about it. I know, I can see it in front of me. It was dropped off like that. I did not crash it into a curb. It's just the way that it is. So I want to talk about this manual transmission because this is, of course, the newest part of the Supra. Otherwise, it's pretty much unchanged. And I respect that they have added this manual. And once you get used to it, it's very fun to drive. I mentioned earlier, it's very easy to drive at low speeds, and I'm going to stand by that. I will say, it's a bit challenging to get your shifts smooth when you're actually going for it. This car does not like to be manhandled. You really have to kind of calculate your shifts and be very delicate with this 6-speed manual, or else you will not be rewarded. I put just over 60 miles on this car, so I'd like to think that I'm quite used to it at this point. I think the most satisfying part about driving this car as a manual is just the beautiful mid-range torque in this car. It's very satisfying to kind of just drive it between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM. I mean, you've just got torque absolutely everywhere. This shifter is pretty nice as well. We talked about this a bit. Gosh, I drove a manual Supra on the channel probably a year and a half ago. The TheTopher and I went on a trip to Hocking Hills, Ohio, and we took a manual Supra and his Honda Civic Type R. And I kind of concluded from that this shifter, while I'm sure it is BMW sourced, it does feel a bit different. I don't know if that comes down to it just simply being a different shifter, or if it's just kind of the longer shifter and shift knob design of this car. You've got a little bit of that rubber feel in here, but it isn't as rubbery as one that you would find on a just kind of typical manual transmission BMW. So I definitely like the way this feels better than any other modern manual BMW, and that could be because this car is still, like I said, stuck a bit in the past. I am really starting to love that. Cars that still feel a little bit old but are brand new are just excellent in my book. I turned 26 and now I'm like, yes, just give me all of the cars that still feel kind of old. And this Supra is definitely one of those cars. Everything else in here feels very natural. The steering feel is quite nice in this car. The accelerator and brake feel very progressive. I mean, it all just feels natural. It comes naturally. You don't have to do any abundance of thinking while driving the Supra. There are a few interior rattles in here. I just like changing gear. We're doing doing some unnecessary gear changes here, and it's just fun. In sport mode, it opens the valve in the exhaust, you get some burbles. Overall, just some fun noises here with this car. Burbles from the exhaust and the interior. And it's so quick. It is so quick. These gears are pretty long. It always makes me think, 382 horsepower? Really? Are you sure? One of those digits, it's definitely wrong. At least one of the digits is wrong. I think it's the first one. This thing feels so quick, and they always have. You know, even in 2020, people were dynoing these cars, and they were making close to 400 horsepower at the wheels, stock. I mean, that means it's making mid-4s at the crank, or low 4s. You don't get a ton of power loss considering this is just rear-wheel drive, it's not all-wheel drive. But it's so fast. Not as fast as the automatic, the ZF 8HP automatic that they put in these Supras, which you are actually able to get with the 45th anniversary. You can choose if you want an automatic or a manual. Of course, the car is faster with that 8-speed, but man, is it fun to row your own gears in a Supra. And we'll take off gently. Do want to get an open entrance ramp here. All right, let's see what she's got. It's so quick. Oh man, this car is so much fun. And it's smooth power. I mean, BMW just has this B58 so refined. 6th gear on the highway, you do not need to drop gears. Leave it in 6th. You can make your passes with absolutely no problem whatsoever. We'll set our cruise. That's not an appropriate speed to set our cruise control. Let's make a couple passes and then we'll get over it. We'll set our cruise control. Being that this is a BMW though, I'm sure the speedo is a little bit optimistic. Usually BMWs read like 2 or 3 miles an hour high. You just breathe on that accelerator in 6th gear. Immediately you're gaining 5 to 10 mph. Okay, let's chill out a little bit over here. One press of the cruise control button on the left side of the steering wheel. That will set your cruise. Just below 80, we are revved just below 3,000 RPM. When the THAT and I took our road trip in the manual Supra, which I drove 90% of the way, I achieved over 30 mph. Every car we test with this B58 is incredibly efficient because not only is this engine extremely powerful, has a ton of torque everywhere, is extremely smooth with like next to no turbo lag, it's also very efficient, which is why I'm not mad at Toyota for putting this B58 in their sports car, because it's just the best inline 6. It's one of the best powertrains on the market right now, and explains why BMW started using this powertrain in like 2016 or something, and they're still using it today, almost 10 years later. Goes to show that it is the best of the best. This car masks its speed very well. You oftentimes lose track. Just over 6,000 miles on this car, and I mean, overall, everything seems to have held up okay. A couple of interior creaks like you guys heard on that kind of potholey road on the way out here. But otherwise, all the touch points seems to have, held up well. Steering wheel feels fine. Elbow comfiness, not good. This whole portion down here with the cup holders, hold on a second, absolutely rock hard. So you're definitely not having a comfy right elbow. Your left elbow is okay here on the left door panel. Does an okay job, but I generally just find myself kind of driving it with both hands, or I'll rest one and I'll rest my right hand on my leg. You do oftentimes also get, when you're shifting into 4th gear or 6th gear, you smash your elbow into the cup holders. And maybe that's just me, but sometimes when I'm driving a manual transmission car, when I'm in between gears, I'm getting ready to shift, I'm resting my arm here. And well, that means that your elbow is in the cup holders. So to add even more to that point, if you're driving with a beverage, say, you're gonna have to kind of contort your body around them. Or just don't drive with a beverage. That would probably be the easiest thing to do. Or buy the automatic, I suppose, but they offer a manual, why not have the manual? The automatic's great, but if you're a real driving enthusiast, you're gonna want this 6-speed stick. Disengage our cruise control. I'll tell you guys, I miss the days of just easy cruise control. Just like anyone else, I like adaptive. Ooh, let's do better paying attention, people. Everyone's just almost crashing all the time. You guys hear those burbles? Haha. That was a good one. Should probably be in 3rd gear for this bit. Oh, except we need to do our test. Hold on. Not bad. A little bit of traffic there. I was under pressure, but one other thing with the Supra, though, did that window not go? Oh, it didn't go down all the way. Interesting. Is it's very difficult to drive it with the windows down over speeds of about 40 miles an hour. It's very blustery in here. There's a company that sells little like fins you can put on the mirrors to kind of redirect the airflow so it's not all coming into the cabin and then bouncing around and making things just seem very blustery. I think Toyota should solve that problem by fitting it with a targa top, as that is the Supra way. 45th anniversary, they should have celebrated by cutting the roof off. Got a bit of a hill start assist in this car as well, so you don't roll back when you're on a hill like I am now. Smash my elbow into 2nd. You don't get a ton of turbo blow-off noise. You can hear it a little bit with the windows down. You more so have turbo spool noise. That's what I hear the most. All right, let's put these windows back up and let's go ahead and listen to this JBL sound system as we get into town.
Feeling
obviously we have an in-house navigation system if you don't want to use your phone projection. That Subaru Forester is late for class. Class probably started at 3:30 at this point. Why even rush? Mental note to not leave town this way. That looks terrible. Anyways, though, the JBL in this is quite nice. I don't think it's quite up with the Harman Kardon in the Z4 or the Harman Kardon in really any of the new BMW stuff. I mean, Toyota's JBLs are really never great. They're always just okay, and I think that's kind of what you have in this car. Honestly, the one in the Supra is one of the best. I think it's because you're kind of just cocooned in this thing, and you're able to just kind of soak up all the sound. We have our adaptive dampers set into comfort or normal setting right now. So we'll drive over some potholes and we'll kind of evaluate the ride. We are running on 19-inch wheels. So, you know, and this thing's got 6,000 miles on it. Lord knows what this car has seen. Sports cars in the press fleet, you just, you never know what they've gone through. Lots of race cars out today. Yeah, you know, I've always liked the way that the Supra rides. I think it's kind of the most Grand Touring-esque aspect of this thing, is that you are definitely still able to daily drive this car, and with living with this car this week, it hasn't beat me up. It's really not even that hard to get in and out of, you know. The only real thing that has hurt me is smashing my elbow into the cup holders when I change gear. Maybe that's just me being clumsy. But otherwise, it's been a really great car to live with. Apple CarPlay connects right away to this iDrive 7 infotainment. Everything's where you left it. It's all very easy to use. And I mean, that's an important thing with a sports car like this, because a car like this is bought for driving pleasure. And you don't want to get in and immediately be frustrated. And you're definitely not in this car. So, you know, for that, it's been a really nice experience for me to live with this car this week. It's a really good size, it fits in the garage nicely, fits in a parking spot with no problem. It's nice also that you're able to just really drive this Supra casually, and it's easy. It doesn't beat you up at low speeds, the 6-speed's very smooth. And you get to pop popcorn everywhere you go. Love that rev match into first, it's just the best. And look at this hazard switch right in the middle. If you break down or something, you need to pull on the side of the road, it's right there. You don't have to search for it.
Please select an event from the screen menu.
Oh, I'm gonna be...
Welcome.
The window,
Proceed into the lot.
it is a bit low, so you... Ooh, what was that? I'm gonna have to check the footage back. I could not tell what that was. Did sound a bit dreadful, whatever it was. People that bring F-150s into these are very brave. Oh, and he's being very polite. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate that. What was I talking about? No, it's very easy to maneuver. Steering feel, it's pretty light when you're in normal mode. Morning. You always know what it's like to be an attractive woman when you're driving a car like this. Supra's a great example of that. I just like this car, you know. This is it's a car that's very much an extension of yourself. And I mean that in a couple of ways. When you're driving it, the inputs, they're all very natural, like, unless you're shifting this thing hard, driving 10/10ths. It's a little bit, you know, unsettling. But otherwise, you know, if they could just get that dialed in a little bit better, everything else is just fantastic. So dialed in. And, you know, if you're daily driving this car, it shows that you're a large enthusiast of automobiles, and sometimes you want to show that off with your mandarin orange paint, your burbly exhaust, and many passerbys will remind you of your decision by saying, "Is that a Supra?" Had to happen once on our drive. Can't drive a Supra without it. All right. Let's park this thing. Geez, are there any spots up here today? Well, we'll just stick it right here. Why not? For our closing remarks. Cool. Well, if you guys can't tell, I had a great week with this car. I really like driving it, and I will be sad to hand it over to the TheTopher tomorrow. But it's always nice when we have a Supra. It's a very great, livable, daily drivable sports car. You've got, you know, enough room in the back with the lift-back design. 2 passengers can sit in this comfortably. My buddy Luke had one of these. He bought it brand new in 2020, and a bunch of us went out to H2OI. Him and his girlfriend sat in this the whole time, and they had no issues. From what I remember taking the Supra out to Hocking Hills, the seats weren't super uncomfortable, and you do actually have a pretty good amount of adjustment here. You've got 2 memory settings. You have lumbar adjust, you have bolster adjust. So lots of good adjustments that mean lots of different sizes of humans can drive the Supra. You've almost got like a double bubble design here on this roof, so you've got plenty of headroom going on here. And yeah, overall just a really nice package. I think Toyota kind of made the most of their vision here, and they played it smart, partnering with BMW. All these years later, the car still works, it's still relevant, and man, what a cool package. And it's orange, so cool. All right, guys, well, if you have any questions about what it's been like to live with this 45th anniversary Supra, leave those in the comments, but that'll just about do it for me today. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.